Richard Hamilton and I operate and own a spanner crab boat involved in the spanner crab fishery from the Gold Coast. I've been spanner crabbing for about 30 years. Also chairman of the Gold Coast Fishermen's Co-op. I started when I was a teenager as a deckhand on one of these prawn trawlers operating out of Southport. I was born on the Gold Coast, and I used to see the trawlers go out to work at night, and I thought I'd love to get on one of those boats, and I did, as a deckhand. That was in the 70s. We were the first ever fishery in Australia to go to a quota system in the late 90s, and unfortunately, due to mismanagement of the Queensland fisheries, it's turned into a disaster. How? The catch rate has been going down for like 8 years, and nothing's been done about it until just recently, where there's been a knee-jerk reaction of reducing our quota by about 50% without doing any other input controls. So that the main problem is they really don't listen to the fishermen. They're out there, you know, on the stock. They know what's going on. They know when they spawn. They know when there's too much pressure on them.
The whole driver for the Sustainable Fisheries Strategy was a review of fisheries in Queensland some years ago, where particularly in our inshore net fishery and our inshore crab fishery, there's a lot of conflict between competing groups, so between commercial and recreational anglers. There's a lot of angst about catch share and the sustainability of stocks and the damage that's being done to those. So that driver then led to a review of our current fisheries practice, and that then led to the development of the Sustainable Fisheries Strategy, which was moving to world's best practice of output focused management, or ITQs, or quota, depending on how you'd like to view that. So this is all really driven by dissatisfaction with the way things are going. Nobody was happy with the existing system, so they all said, yes, we want to change. Now when we actually are discussing the change, that's the next big shift, is what change do we actually want? And that's proving a bit of a stumbling block for some fishers.
We've been involved, but the things we want done, they don't really want to listen to.
And what do you want to be done?
What we want to do, we want to get rid of the general fisheries permits. So even though we can't change the quota that's been set, like the low quota, but at least if we can bring it back to 45, maximum 45 pots per boat, at least the fishery's got a chance to regenerate, because otherwise, as far as I can see, that the big boats will keep working. They'll end up with all the quota anyway. They'll keep working, and there won't be any relief for the spanner crabs to actually recover, because they're very slow growing. They need a long, long time to recover.
If we were to look at getting rid of fisheries permits for fisheries, that would probably end up being a bad outcome both for the ecosystem and for individual fishers. So what the permits give us from an ecological point of view is the ability to control how much catch is taken, and that means that catch limits can be set in a way that balances the health of the ecosystem with the need to catch fish and the jobs that generates. Removing permits from a fishery also ends up being bad for the fishers, because what you can end up with is a situation where people are race to fish. So everyone's trying to get out there when the season opens and catch as many fish as they can, or as many crabs as they can, before their competitors get in there. Whereas if you have permits, that means people have a right to catch that fish, and they can choose to go and catch those fish over the entire year, or when they want to choose it. So for instance, they could wait early in the season and not catch any, and catch those fish later on when market prices are higher, say around Christmas or something. So permits are actually, if they're properly implemented, are actually very good for both the ecosystem and the fishers themselves.
So the spanner crab fishery is a bit of a tale of a developed fishery which in its very early infancy was heavily fished around some major ports like Brisbane, the Gold Coast and Mooloolaba. And as fishing pressure increased in an unregulated fashion, catches began to decline and catch rates began to decline. So Fisherman then pushed for a management change. So a range of management changes were brought in: daily basket limits, total number of baskets, individual catch limits, all of those things that were tried. And then as more people invested in the fishery, they went to bigger boats and then started exploring different areas to actually catch fish. So it's one of those classic tales of a newly discovered fishery being very quickly fished into a position where it shouldn't be, some piecemeal management decisions being made to try and retain the fishery's economic viability, and then that's not worked, and so we've continually made little management changes to try and band-aid over the problem, if you like, and now we're uncovering all the band-aids. We've got a much bigger problem, so we now have to take a very drastic step of cutting the quota quite significantly to try and get the fishery to recover, which is not good.
Well, for me, I'm going to lose half my business. If I can't lease out quota, I can only fish for maybe 6 months of the year. Then I'll tie up the boat, my crew will leave because there's no income. I'll lose my business here supplying fresh seafood to the locals and the iconic tourism market which I've been building up for the last 20 years. So all that will be just gone down the tube, and there'll be no compensation, nothing.
Are you angry about it?
Yeah, we were very depressed. We had a meeting yesterday in Mooloolaba with the Fisheries, and most of the guys left very depressed and actually felt like driving off the road on the way home. It's terrible. If I can't go out and catch crabs, with 50% of my business is gone, well, my business is really finished. I can't keep anyone here to employ, and then if I want to sell up, I haven't really got a business to sell either. So I'll be pretty well devastated.
If they go the right way about it, it won't be too bad. If they do some of the things they got in there, it's going to be disastrous for everyone. It's going to cost a lot of money. It'll send people to the wall. There's some aspects of it that are good. There's a lot bad. There's the good side of it, the harvest strategy, we agree with, or I agree with anyway. It allows us fishermen in each, where they're going to zone it, each fisherman to be able to manage their area. So, just for instance, we've got an area here from December through to April. We've got a lot of small prawns in close. We want to be able to shut that area down and be allowed to open it up when we want to, when the prawns are growing up enough to be able to be saleable. When it comes to talking money, whoever's got the most money, the fisheries listen to, government listens to. Us, owner-operators, we're on our own virtually when it comes to that. So we've got a lot of hurdles and a lot of boundaries we've got to come to and get over.
Why didn't the Queensland Fisheries act sooner? They could see everything was going down. Why did they keep giving out these fishing permits to keep the pressure on the crabs? Why did they do that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question as to why, and I guess a lot of that is actually driven by industry. And one of the problems in all fisheries management is that stakeholders always have access to political influence. So there's always some game playing in the background about who has the minister's ear or who is able to influence policy decisions. And in the past, that has led to this piecemeal band-aiding of fisheries management options. That's why we've gone to the strategy, is to try and actually stop that, so that with a harvest strategy where we have some defined rules about what will happen if the stock reaches this level, we will do this. And they're predetermined. The government has really no option but to go, yes, we've said that we'll do this, so we'll take that action, and then we can monitor, and as the stock rebuilds, we can change quotas up, or if the stock isn't rebuilding, we can change quotas down. But all of those actions are pre-agreed, and everybody knows what will happen. If this occurs, that's okay. Whereas previously it was, if this occurs, what we would only find out once it happened, and then it was a case of what do we do? So there was this hurried question about, oh, what should we fix? Well, we'll fix this bit. And then somebody would go, well, I don't like you fixing that bit. Well, we'll go and have a chat to the minister, and the minister would say, well, do you think you should fix that bit, or should you just leave it? So there's all this political interference, whereas the strategy with a set of predefined rules should largely take those decisions, or those piecemeal decisions away, so that we can actually focus on managing the stock of the fishery.
Just say, look, we haven't given up the battle. We're going to try and meet with the Fisheries Minister and tell him like exactly our thoughts on it, because we are the guys that are out there. We're the ones with the hands-on knowledge. We've been out there for 30 years. Like, I think it's time he listened to us.